Hello and welcome back to webinars at Show It. We are so excited for today's webinar with Joy Spencer as we wait for people to come on in and join us. First of all, I'm Jihei and I work here at Show It, and I'm so excited to host today's webinar. It's going to be amazing. Our guest, Deanna Joy Spencer, is a multi-passionate photographer or creative, and she is based in LA. And so the question I'm going to ask you guys in the chat, I would love to see your answers, is what do you love to eat? I personally love eating. I'm not a foodie. I just love to eat food. And I love LA. It's one of my favorite places to go to eat. They have the best like Korean restaurants and just everything. And so hop on in, tell us you're here, and tell us what your favorite things to eat are. I asked Joy, so her name is Deanna, but she goes by Joy, her middle name, and she said she loves a restaurant in LA called Cafe Gratitude, which sounds precious, and I think they're vegan and all kinds of good things. Terry Baskin is here, and she loves her some Oreos. Yes, Terry, welcome. Oreos is its own food group. According to Terry, she eats a balanced diet of Oreos. Good job, lady. Shamisha loves hummus. Hummus is very nutrient rich, so great choice. Maybe, Terry, consider maybe dipping some Oreos in hummus. Try that out. We've got pizza, paella, fajitas, and cheeseburgers from one person. So I love that. Also a fellow food lover. So good. Isn't food the best? Like you don't have to eat your feelings and stuff, but enjoy nourishing your body and I don't know, have a meal with a friend if you're allowed to do that in your city or county. And enjoy your life. It's good stuff. What else are you guys eating out there? Either preparing yourselves or eating at home. Oh, chips and queso. Yes, Texas. Hello. Love chips and queso. I just had some for lunch myself. Leftovers from my Super Bowl party. I love the Super Bowl because it's snack time the entire afternoon. And that's my favorite. And we had 2 different kinds of chips and queso. So that was fantastic. Star Mercer, welcome from Canada. Oh, fried calamari. Yes, I also love fried calamari. Oh man, hello from Spain. Guys, we are worldwide. How exciting is this? So good. Fries, also magic. If I was a vegetarian, I would basically eat fries at every meal because it's a vegetable, so that's good. Oh, and king salmon. Never had that, but sounds very fancy. All right, so please feel free to continue to let us know what you like to eat, just because I like knowing stuff like that. So today our presenter is Joy, and she is a multi-passionate creative, and I'm guessing a lot of you are in here because so are you. It's okay to have more than one interest. And so she is going to talk to us about focus, and we're super excited about that. And she is also an educator and community builder, and we want you to stay till the end so that you can hear more of just great things that she's creating for you beyond this webinar, and some deals that she has for you. This is not a sales pitch though, so don't feel like you have to leave. She's got lots of great content for you, so get your notepads out. And then also when she asks questions and asks you to interact during her webinar, just throw them in the chat and we will go through them. And then if you have any questions at all, throw those in the chat as well. And then if we have time at the end, we will go through some of those questions and she'll answer them. And if she doesn't have time to get to your question specifically, she will hop into the chat afterwards and answer your question. So, Joy, if you are ready, we are ready for you.
Ready? Awesome. Thank you so much. I love hearing what everyone loves to eat. I'm also a big fan of Oreos and hummus. Not sure I would ever try them together, but independently, absolutely. Thank you so much for joining today. And I am so excited to talk to you about how to find focus as a multi-passionate creative so that you can follow through on your projects without feeling overwhelmed. And I'm going to dive right in. So I love to start by guessing why you're here. So I have three guesses, and I would love for you to hop in the chat and let me know if any of these are correct. So you might feel like one resonates with you, two, or three. So my first guess is that focus feels like that one overwhelming skill that you can't seem to master as a multi-passionate. If you resonate with that, drop a one in the chat. My second guess is that you want to follow through on your projects and finish what you start. Maybe you're having a lot of false starts, you're getting things going, but there's some kind of roadblock right in the middle and you're just not completing your projects. Drop a two in the chat if you're resonating with that and if that's why you're here. My third guess is that you have a lot of ideas and you want to learn how to focus so that those ideas are not overwhelming you. This is especially for my multi-passionate creatives out there. We can feel bombarded and overwhelmed and almost burdened by our ideas. So drop in the chat if that's you, if you're a three. And if I don't have my guesses right and you're here for a different reason, I also want to know that in the chat. So go ahead and share. Before we dive into the content, I'm going to share a little bit about myself. Thank you so much for the introduction, but I want to let you know that, yes, my name is Joy. I go by my middle name, mostly because my first name has an apostrophe and the internet rejects it every time. I can't fill out a form. I can't use it for a website domain. It's terrible. So anyway, I go by Joy. You can call me Joy. We're friends now. And I am a bona fide multi-passionate creative. I have been a lead singer in a band. I used to have an Etsy shop where I sold vintage and handmade goods. I have done so many different things and have really been working through how do I arrive at a place where I feel fully embodied as the multi-passionate that I am, whether or not I'm doing 5 things at once or choosing to just do one thing. But I am very much a multi-passionate in my core. It's who I am. It's how I identify because I have so many passions and a lot of raw talent to match. I'm also a lover of crystals and plants. If you could see my whole setup, you'd see nothing but crystals and houseplants. Drop in the chat if you love those two things as well. And I'm also a mom to an amazing rescue pup named Chai. He's right here next to me sleeping like a very good boy, but if at any point you see a curly tail behind me, it's because he decided that he wants to participate. So that's a little bit more about me on a personal note. Now, I want to also share a little bit more about my journey with focus as a multi-passionate. So before learning how to focus as a multi-passionate, I was ashamed of having so many passions. I spent my entire 20s feeling completely lost. And to be fair, that's kind of what our 20s is for, figuring things out. But it was like having that natural progression of wanting to figure out who I was, and then having on top of that, not even realizing that I was multi-passionate and it wasn't something that I needed to fix or change. I was ashamed of having so many passions because I didn't have the tools to do anything with it. So it just felt like a burden. And I felt like a failure because I couldn't focus long enough to finish what I started. Oh, tell me if you relate to this. I would actually talk myself out of going after things that I was really genuinely interested in because I would tell myself, you know, you're not even going to finish that. You know, you can't get to the end of that. You know, you can't see through. You know, you can't see that through. It was really a terrible time in my experience because I spoke really negatively to myself because I had all this evidence that I couldn't follow through. Before learning how to focus as a multi-passionate, I would pivot, but I would have no plan. So I'd be like, okay, you know what? I'm going to go in a new direction. And then I would have no plan at all. And ultimately, I believed the lie that success would never be available to me because I just couldn't figure this out. Let me know if you relate to any of that. And here's the silver lining. Here's the rainbow, you know, after the storm. I have learned how to focus as a multi-passionate. And since I've learned that, I'm able to lean into my passions because I know how to focus in a way that honors my unique creative flow. And I'm so excited to teach you that today. I also trust myself to follow through on projects, so I don't have to talk myself out of getting started because I know that I have the tools that I need to follow through. And I am now at a place in my life and in my business where I pivot without apology in order to get as close as possible to an energetically aligned offer. I've been interviewed on some of the top podcasts for creative entrepreneurs. and I've helped hundreds of multi-passionates embrace their talents as a gift and not a burden. And 2021 is the year where I take the hundreds into the thousands. That's what I'm calling in this year. So that's a little bit about me and my journey with focus. And I wanted to share this because I think it's really important for you to understand that I'm teaching from a heart-centered place, and I'm teaching from experience, and I'm teaching from having gone through so many of these struggles myself. So let's get comfortable. We're going to get started. We're going to dive into the content now. This is the time to set the vibe, close the tabs, make sure you can see the screen clearly, make sure that your vibe is set and you're in an environment of being ready to receive and learn today. Grab a notebook and a pen if you haven't. Now's your time, while you're listening to me. Go through the rest of these. Go ahead and get up if you need to. Grab your notebook, grab a pen, or open your Google Doc. Grab a beverage if you don't already have water next to you or something like that. Hydration equals focus. So I think it's really important to have something to sip on. And most importantly, I'm asking that you keep an open mind throughout this presentation. I had a mentor, and he would always open all of his talks by saying, it's natural for you to want to listen to what I'm telling you and then categorize it as, yeah, I agree with that, or no, I don't. And he would say, what if instead you just listened? Just take it in. You can decide later what resonates and what doesn't. But if you make those choices as I'm teaching, you might miss out on something that could be really powerful for you today. Okay, let's get started. The first thing that I want to go through is, how can we shift our perception of focus? So as multi-passionates, here's what we get to do. Here's how we get to engage with focus. We get to demystify focus by making it less abstract. We get to learn to focus in ways that nourish our creativity. And we get to embrace different types of focus, because there is more than one type. And we're going to spend a lot of time today talking about what that looks like. So right now, I would love it if you could just energetically, or even in the chat, say yes to this moment. Let this be the day where focus is no longer this big, looming, abstract concept that you just can't seem to grasp. Let's say yes to demystifying that concept, to focusing in a way that nourishes our creativity, and to embracing different types of focus so we can follow through on our projects and maximize our creative output. Drop a yes in the chat, and more importantly, give an energetic yes right now to this moment. So focus is a tool that helps you gain momentum. That's it. It is not a big scary monster hiding underneath your bed that comes out to get you anytime you want to sit down and work on something. It's not this huge abstract concept that is almost impossible to grasp if you're multi-passionate. It's not something that creative people just can't do. It's not any of those things. It's a tool. And it's a tool that we can use to gain momentum. When we gain momentum, it's a cycle. So we focus, and a result of our focus is that we gain momentum. That momentum makes it easier to focus, just like a ball rolling downhill, right? It makes it easier. It's easy to go when you have momentum. So it makes it even easier to focus. And as we continue our focus, we continue to gain momentum, and it's a cycle. So that's it. Focus is a tool that helps you gain momentum. Definitely write that down. And as you start to look at focus as a tool, then we can start to think about all the different ways we get to use that tool in our creative toolbox, if you will. We get to focus, and we get to see how focus can really help us and how we can use it to maximize our creative output. So I'm going to talk to you now about 3 types of focus that will help you follow through on your projects without feeling overwhelmed. And I put this little image of the notepad there to remind you that if you don't have your notes, this is the time, okay? Please write this down. We're going to go through 3 different types of focus, and you might want to dedicate a page to each one. We're going to talk about intensive focus, active focus, and passive focus. And I came up with this concept based on observing my own relationship with focus and finally getting to a place where I felt empowered and excited when I thought about focusing on a project. And I realized why. It was because I was able to identify there are actually different types of focus, and I know when to use them at what point. Life-changing. Okay. So let's start with intensive focus. Intensive focus is the kind of focus that you're going to want to use when you're doing big picture or long-term planning. I love to think of this kind of focus as a conference of one. So picture this, okay? You open up your calendar and you're in the middle of the month and you're like, you know what? I'm feeling a little bit frazzled. Things are all over the place. I'm not sure what's going on. I'm having trouble focusing. And you open up your planner and you schedule an intensive focus day. Intensive focus, you're going to want to have an uninterrupted stretch of time where you eliminate distractions. So if you're looking in your planner and you're going to schedule this day, you're going to want to have at least probably 3 hours. And if you can do like an entire morning or an entire afternoon or an entire evening or just a day where you block everything out and it's about you and your project and your big picture vision, that's what the energy of this kind of focus is like. I like to think of it as a conference of one. Like, you know, you're blocking out your schedule, you have your Post-its, you have whatever you like to do to take notes. Maybe it's a whiteboard, you lit some candles, you have your snacks, you have everything around you, right? Going back to the food, you got your Oreos, you got your hummus, you have everything around you that you need in order to just sit and enjoy this time with yourself. It's a conference of one. Just like when you go to a conference like United, they provide everything that you need so that you can just focus on what you need to do. That's the energy of intensive focus time. Drop in the chat. Let me know if this is making sense for you, because that's my favorite way to explain it. So you're going to use intensive focus time to establish clarity around your priorities, to look at an idea or a few ideas that you have and think about not only how they feel now, but what could they look like in 3 months? What could it look like in 6 months? Really getting that bird's eye view and that big picture vision. And when you're in intensive focus time, this is also a great time to dig deep into your why. Why do you even want to do this project? Now, without intensive focus time, you might find yourself starting projects but having no big picture plan. You might not be taking the time to consider your energetic bandwidth. And by that, I mean, when you look at a project, you think about, okay, what's it going to take for me to get this off the ground, right? And as multi-passionates, we have a desire to just jump right in and get started. But without that intensive focus time, we might not realize, I might need help with this, or I might need to break this down into multiple phases so I don't get overwhelmed and give up in the middle of it, right? Without intensive focus time, you may not be taking the space that you need to consider that. You also might end up feeling kind of disconnected from your why and your ideal vision for your life. And you might not be prioritizing activities that move the needle and create that momentum that focus helps us to achieve if you're not making a plan in the beginning, okay? And no sweat. If you feel like, oh my goodness, this is how I've been doing things for a while now, no problem. That's totally fine. But now you know that you have this tool, this type of focus, intensive focus, a conference of one that can lead you to a place of having a clear 90-day plan for your project. Now, I don't go into it in this presentation today, but something that I do teach my community members and clients that I work with is how to create seasons of focus. And what I will say today is that a season of focus is essentially a 90-day container, but it has nothing to do with like the quarters of the year. It's just 90 days when you start your project. And so I like to break projects down into that 90-day container because I find it to be really, really helpful and supportive for multi-passionate. So with intensive focus, you can use that time to create your 90-day plan. You're going to also have that long-term vision that supports your energetic bandwidth because you've taken the time to look at the bigger picture. And with intensive focus, you're going to be living inside of your why every day and showing up with confidence as a result, because you've already nourished that soil from the beginning. And you'll be able to easily prioritize activities that move the needle and create the momentum that you're looking for. So that's intensive focus time. If you have questions about intensive focus, make sure that you drop them in the chat and we can talk about it at the end of the presentation, okay? So we're going to move on now to active focus. Active focus is when you're putting in the work and you're getting it done. This type of focus builds massive momentum, and it's the momentum that we're used to. It's the momentum that we can see, and a lot of us live here in active focus, and then we're like exhausted because we're just cranking out, we're writing the blog post, we're recording the podcast, we're doing the sales calls. That kind of energy, that's active focus energy. You're doing the work, you're in it, right? So it's very important that we not only set our priorities before we engage in active focus activities, but that we also root into our why first. When I taught this training in my community, I had a lot of members saying, I find it really hard to get into active focus mode. Like, this is what I'm struggling with. I can do intensive focus. Maybe I'm forgetting to do it and I need to make sure I'm planning that time. But when it comes time to actually get the work done, I feel like there's procrastination and I'm hitting a wall. Drop in the chat if you've ever felt like that, right? I'm even raising my hand there. And that's why I say root into your why first. It's not about taking empty action. It's about taking aligned action that's going to create more momentum and help us achieve the goal that we set out in the beginning during our intensive focus time. But there needs to be an emotional connection in order for us to keep getting this work done, because it takes energy, right? It takes a different kind of energy than intensive focus. And you can almost hear in my voice, I speak about this type of focus a lot differently than I talk about intensive focus. Intensive focus is more flowing and open. Active focus is a little bit more regimented. But if you root into your why first, create a personal manifesto, have a vision board near your desk, and sit with your cup of coffee and look at it before you start your work. Find a way to root into your why, journal it out, whatever that looks like. Go and look at some client testimonials. Remember why you do this. Once you get that, then dive into your active focus, okay? I promise it helps so much. Another way to do this really successfully is to use the Pomodoro method, and that's otherwise known as the tomato timer, where you're working in short, interrupted spurts and then taking a break. So you might work for 25 minutes and then take a 5 or 10 minute break. This is how our brains are developed to actually sit and go through tasks, so it can be really supportive to use this method. And then my favorite tip is reward yourself. Reward yourself once you're done. And it doesn't have to mean that you go and splurge on something that's going to break your budget. It could be, I'm going to take a bath in the afternoon. I'm going to go for a walk without my dog. I just want to walk by myself and daydream, or I'm going to binge Netflix tonight and not feel guilty about it. Whatever it looks like for you, reward yourself after a period of active focus. So without active focus, you're going to have all vision and no action to back it up. All vision and no action does not build momentum. So you're not going to have momentum on your projects in the way that we need to have it, right? Remember, focus is a tool that helps us gain momentum. And these 3 types of focus that I'm teaching you about right now, they all intermingle to help maximize your creative output. But we need the presence of all of these to get to that place. And you might also be feeling like you're the one in your way. I have felt this way often, and it's hard. It's hard when we realize we've taken the courses, we have the mentors, we have a community behind us, we know our mission, we know who we want to help, but the work's not getting done. You probably need more active focus in your life. You probably need more active focus time in your schedule. With that active focus time present, Your vision is going to inspire aligned action. Remember, you're rooting into your why first, and you're going to be like, let's go. I'm ready. I'm ready to do the presentation. I'm ready to record this podcast. I have a mission. I'm here to serve. This is why I'm doing this. And you're going to be able to take aligned action. Also, your projects are going to gain momentum and they will get easier with time. One thing that I know for certain is that when we look at a project, we can sometimes feel overwhelmed just because of all the steps that are there and everything we have to figure out. But the more time you spend with that balance between intensive focus time and then that active focus, you're going to gain momentum and it's going to get easier. You're going to gain skills and it's going to get easier over time. And probably the best part about active focus is you know that you're doing your part to create the life you want to live. You're putting in the work, right? That's an important thing. It's a really gratifying feeling when you know that you're putting in that work. So if you have questions about active focus times, either save them for the end or drop them in the chat so that we can make sure that we come back to them. And now let's talk about my favorite type of focus. Passive focus time. Just take a breath. Passive focus time is all about relaxing. It's all about, yes, we need intensive focus. Yes, we need active focus. And we also need some way to keep momentum going, even when we just can't even when we can barely adult, let alone crunch out this to-do list. That's when passive focus comes in. It's a way to continue to build momentum without burning yourself out. I don't know about you, but I'm team no burnout. Drop in the chat if you're on that team as well. If you've ever experienced burnout, you know how real it is. It is not a mythical entrepreneurial boogeyman or some kind of creature. It's very, very real. And when we stay locked in active focus, burnout's most likely going to be creeping up over our shoulder. So I like to say about passive focus that it's the song of your dream that's playing in the background. When you walk into a store or you hear a song and you're like, how do I know all the lyrics to this song? I don't even remember ever putting this song on, but it's been in a commercial. It's been playing here. It's been playing there. And it's just kind of embedded in your mind. That's kind of what passive focus is like as we look at our business goals and our projects. The key to this type of focus, and again, passive focus is more like, just to give some examples, maybe you're listening to a podcast that, is relevant to your topic, or you're sitting in on a Clubhouse conversation that's relevant to your particular niche, or you are sitting and looking at your vision board and you're just thinking about, okay, I'm so excited to really bring this to life. Or you are reviewing work that you've done in the past. You're looking at something that you turned into a client, a project that's completely wrapped up, but you're just kind of reviewing it and going over it and looking at it. All of those are more passive focus activities. When you are involved in passive focus, there's no guilt allowed. It's not a space for guilt to arrive. And when I say no guilt allowed, that sounds a little harsh. We can welcome the guilt and we can acknowledge that it's there, and then we can release it and say, you know what? This type of focus is helping me gain momentum and it's preventing burnout. I'm not going to feel guilty about sitting here and looking at my mood board. I'm not going to feel guilty about choosing to not do my active focus activity today because I'm exhausted. I'm going to move that to the end of the week. And today I'm going to do some passive focus. What podcast do I want to catch up on while I go for a walk? It's not about feeling guilty and letting that guilt stop us and put us back into active focus. It's about understanding that all of these types of focus work together to help us follow through, to help us gain momentum, and to help us maximize our energetic output as creatives. So let this type of focus work for you. I gave a few examples like listening to podcasts, but this can be extremely unique for you. It can be something totally different than any of the examples that I gave. So make sure that you choose a passive focus kind of activity that's going to keep that momentum going in a more passive way that works for you. And I have to say this because another thing that I hear a lot in my community is, ooh, yeah, I'm just kind of only doing passive focus. I'm very familiar with passive focus. In fact, I think I might just be stuck in passive focus. So I just want to say, get out your planner, plan your week, look at what you need to accomplish, look at what's going to move the needle forward, right? Maybe you can even take your intensive focus time and use that to do some weekly planning, right? You could do an intensive focus session on a Monday or a Sunday, look at the week ahead. And as you're looking at your week, if all you're doing is scheduling active focus activities, then what might happen is you might be burnt out. So you might procrastinate. You might not want to do it. And you might end up only doing passive focus as a default. But the other scenario is open your planner, schedule active and passive together so that they play with one another. And then you can still gain that momentum without being stuck in passive focus. So to kind of wrap up this type of focus, burnout is going to be on the horizon if you are never allowing yourself to indulge in passive focus. This is why it's my favorite, because this kind of focus saved my business. There was a time when I was so burnt out that I was like, you know what? Maybe I'm not cut out for this, because that's what burnout will do to you. It'll make you feel like you're not worthy to even be an entrepreneur because you can't handle the pressure, right? And instead of giving up, I was able to just say, you know what? Let me take a step back. Let me go watch that course that I already took that maybe can just put me back in an energy of wanting to do this. Let me listen to some podcasts. And doing that saved my business. I'm here today because I learned to embrace passive focus. So it's very, very real. It will keep burnout off of your plate if you have it. But without it, it's very likely that burnout is on the horizon. You might also feel, without passive focus, like you just are lacking pleasure and lacking inspiration. I think that it's really, really easy to feel like, entrepreneurship is a challenge and there's always going to be something that we have to figure out and we're up for the challenge, but it can also be pleasurable and fun. And I'm looking at my presentation and realizing that the last check mark and the X mark are inversed. So I'm going to read from the other side. But without passive focus, you're going to be stuck in active focus and you're going to be getting mediocre results because you're tired. And when you're not well rested, you're not in your creative power. You are not getting those divine downloads, and you're going to have mediocre results even though you're putting in the work. With passive focus embedded into your schedule, and with it being embedded into those other two types of focus, you can keep burnout at bay. We've talked about that a lot. You also are creating some room for pleasure and inspiration to still have a space in your life. Like, doesn't that sound good? You're creating room for that, right? When we're scheduled this type of focus, we are allowing ourselves to just enjoy listening to a podcast as a part of our task for that week. Allow that time, allow that inspiration to come, allow some of those pleasurable experiences to support your other types of focus. And again, I'm reading from the other side. You're going to move back into active focus feeling way more refreshed, and you're going to get way better results. So now we have covered intensive focus, active focus, and passive focus. And what I would love for you to do is drop in the chat and let us know, what type of focus do you feel like you need more of? Be honest. There's no wrong answers, but it can be really supportive to know, okay, you know what? I'm not doing a lot of big picture planning. I think I need more intensive focus time. I want to go to a conference of one and be with myself for an entire afternoon and just really think about what I want, what I'm doing, what's my why, and make a plan. Maybe you need more active focus. You need more of those short bursts of uninterrupted time, followed by a break where you are getting the work done, getting things out the door, following up as needed, answering the emails, whatever that looks like, or even managing your team can be a part of that, right? Or maybe you realize more than ever that you really need some passive focus built into your schedule. Because we're not here to burn out. We're team no burnout. So maybe you realize. Let us know in the chat. Okay, I'm going to have a sip of tea. So those are the three types of focus. And in the past, I haven't included this in this particular training, but I've realized that this is very important as well. So let's talk about the life-changing magic of non-focused time. First of all, what is non-focused time? So non-focused time is free time that has a strategy behind it. So this is intentional time that you schedule to not do any work. And by not do any work, I mean not even do passive focus. And instead, you just enjoy relaxing activities that put you in a flow state. Those activities are going to look different for everyone. For some of us, it might be watering our plants. For some of us, it might be just laying outside and looking at a nice blue sky. You can tell I live in LA. It's February, but you know what I mean. Seasonally, depending on where you are, it might mean spending time in front of a body of water or the ocean. It could literally mean laying on a couch and doing nothing. Whatever this looks like for you is correct. However, the most important element about non-focused time is that it's scheduled. You are putting it in your schedule and you're protecting that time. So non-focused time is another way to prevent burnout. And it's another way to see your projects through from start to finish, because you are giving yourself a break when you need it. So non-focused time gives your mind a chance to rest and recharge, which is going to keep burnout at bay, right? And it also is encouraging those intuitive insights and inspiration. So one thing that I do when I'm in my non-focused time is I always have my idea notebook out on my table, open with a pin on it, because the chances of me getting an amazing idea for something that I've been trying to work out, or, you know, something in my business that I want to implement, and thinking about it hasn't really helped. When I allow myself to really deeply relax and I'm in my non-focused time energy, 9 times out of 10, the solution just enters my mind because I'm in a relaxed state. So I do like to keep a notebook where I can write it, but I don't take action during that time. I actually don't go anywhere near my workspace during non-focused time. And also, non-focused time can really help create room for you to spend time on your other passions. So if you're a multi-passionate creative like myself, I love to play the ukulele and sing, but it can feel like, you know, if it's not related to my business, when am I going to do this? But if I know I have my non-focused time scheduled, I can say, okay, you know what? I'm going to work on a new song. That would be really, really fun. Or I'm going to get my watercolors out and just paint for fun. So it allows more time for your passions. So here's how you can figure out when your non-focused time should be. Observe when your energy is low and schedule your non-focused time accordingly. Once you have that in your schedule, protect that time at all costs. It's non-negotiable. It's non-negotiable. So you have to really protect it. My non-focused time is Saturday mornings, because although, you know, I've been in a side hustle space. I actually just put in my 2 weeks notice, so I'm excited to not have to tell this story too many more times. But, you know, I would work Monday through Friday in my support job, and then it would be Saturday morning, and I'd be like, okay, this is the first day that I have to go all in on my business and really spend time on what I love and what I'm the most passionate about, which is building my business. But Saturday morning would roll around and I would be exhausted. I'd be exhausted from working all week, and I would have no desire to open my laptop and start working on content for my business, Joy Knows How. I had no desire to do it, and I felt guilty. I felt like something was wrong with me. I felt like, why am I not taking advantage of this time? I finally got to the weekend, and I realized, actually, I'm just going to intentionally choose to not force myself to work on Saturday mornings. And now I protect my Saturday mornings at all costs. I might do something business related after 12 p.m., but the morning time is where I just tidy up my space, or I literally sit on the couch and do nothing. I might water my plants. I might walk down to the plant shop. I might read a book, but I know that Saturday mornings are my non-focus time. So that's how you can work with this time in your own schedule. Okay, we're coming to the end of the presentation. So what I would love to do before we take some questions is just quickly recap what we learned today. I wanted to be as efficient as possible, out of respect for your time and mine. So I know we covered a lot. Hopefully you were able to take notes and ask any questions, but were we able to demystify focus by making it less abstract? Drop in the chat and let me know. That was one of my main goals, was to help you understand that focus is a tool that helps us gain momentum, and we get to figure out how we work with that tool. We also were able to shift the way that we approach focus as multi-passionates because we realized that it is a tool that we get to use. It's not something that's unavailable to us. It's not something that we just don't get to partake in because we're not a specialist. It's something that we can lean into and figure out how it's going to work for us in our own way as multi-passionates. Let me know if you feel like we shifted something there today. Drop in the chat and let me know. And lastly, we learned how to embrace different types of focus. So let me know if that part of the presentation really resonated with you and you're walking away from this with a new understanding of these different types of focus and what they look like. Let me know how we did today. And yes, I do want to tell you about how you can dive deeper into this work. If you are wanting more content that is specifically for multi-passionate creatives and you love talking about focus in this way and you want to even go deeper into other topics as a creative business owner, then my online community is a place where we do that. It's called the Multi-Passionate Mastery Collective, formerly known as the Joy Knows How Collective. I very recently changed the name. And it's a place where we not only, oh, sorry, I have something random popping up on my screen right now. Hold on. I just want to make sure that the presentation is still showing. And I'm not even sure how to exit out of this. Give me 1 second. But the Multi-Passionate Mastery Collective is my online community, and it's a space where we not only are, there we go, embracing our multi-passionate nature, but we're taking that to a level of creative mastery. So we do monthly Q&A. There's a growing content library. Can you still hear me? Hopefully everything's cool. There's a growing content library there, and it's a place where you can share your work with a really supportive community. Doors are actually closing today. I've been doing kind of my final push and letting everyone know for the past couple of weeks, but today is the last day to join. It's $44 a month or $3.99 for a year, and it's a wonderful place to be if you are a multi-passionate creative and you want to learn from a multi-passionate educator, you want to have community around being multi-passionate, and especially if you just feel like a lot of the business advice that you're getting in other places doesn't apply to you because you are multi-passionate, then I would love for you to join us. And you can go to joyknowshow.com/collective to visit and see more about it. I also want to let you know that as an exclusive offer for anyone who joins before the doors close, which is today, you are also going to be invited to join me in my very first signature group program. So I am building out a group program called the Multi-Passionate Creatives Great Adventure. It's a 16-week program, so 4 months where we take a different topic each month and really dive deeper. So if you liked what we talked about today, about focus, I go a little bit deeper and share even more about that and how you can really apply it to your unique business model and your experience, for example. And we go through a lot of different topics. And I'm going to be building out this program with my community members, with their feedback, with their input, taking their questions into account, asking them what kind of content they want to see and what would be the most supportive. So since my community is going to help me build this program, I'm offering it at no extra charge. It's a bonus with your membership. But when I open doors again and I launch this program in the summer, it's going to be at least $1,500, if not more than that. So this is a really, really great experience if you are wanting to dive even deeper and you want to do this for just $44 a month. And that's it. I want to thank you to the Show It family. I want to thank you so much for having me. I look forward to sticking around. If there's time, I can definitely hang out for a little while and answer some questions. Thank you for your time and your attention today. I know we covered a lot and we went through it quickly. And I also want to let you know that if you want to stay in touch, even if you're like, oh, the community, I'm not sure about that, but I'd love to kind of see what else is happening throughout the year, then follow me on Instagram. I'll make sure that you are getting some updates there, and I'll let you know how we can take our relationship to the next level, how you can get on my email list and all of that from Instagram. So you're welcome to follow me there, and I'd love to stay in touch. And that's it.
Joy, that was so good. I took down all of these notes. I know everyone else was writing notes because they did not ask any questions really, because they were just like taking it all down. And it was so funny when you asked, why are you here? Do you feel like you can't focus, or like 1, 2, 3, what's your issue? And just your answers, guys, they were amazing. You guys were like, oh, I'm already failing to focus because I'm all 3 of them. So that's fantastic. But also when you asked, what is something that you feel like you need to work on more, I feel like active focus was probably the biggest answer. So I love that. I love that you just made it so tangible. You cut it up into little baby bite-sized grapes for us, and you hand-fed it to us, and it was fantastic. I feel like I learned a ton, and it's true that focus is I think it's one of those things like SEO, right? Everyone's like, oh, I should have good SEO, I should have good focus, but how do you have good SEO? And then how do you have good focus? And so, man, this was Joy. So good. It was so, so good.
Yay. I'm so glad. Thank you so much for the feedback.
If anyone does have any questions, feel free to put them in the chat. But if you don't, like Joy was saying, you can follow her on Instagram. You can even follow her on Pinterest. She's over there as well. Definitely check out her website. It is joy-knows-how.com. Those dashes are important, but they're not apostrophes, so that's real. And she has the cutest store also. The shirt that she's wearing in our Instagram post, Shiny Object Syndrome, amazing. I have that, so I'm gonna need to get that shirt. And then definitely check out her course and all of these other things. But I follow her on Instagram. I think she's so great, and she reminds me to get back into these different focus zones. So if you need a reminder of when you should be doing these different focuses, definitely give her a follow. That would be so great. And finally, Joy, girl, congrats on quitting that 9 to 5, because we have been trying to schedule this webinar for months. And Joy was like, oh, you know what? I take the day off for my birthday every year, so let's do it on my birthday. And I was like, you sure you want to do some super active focus stuff on your birthday? And then she changed her mind. But here we are months later, and you're quitting your job, and you are going to go deep into this work, and you are a valuable asset to our community. So we are thankful for you. We're thankful for your time and for this webinar. Friends, go potty if you drank too much because you were focused and you were staying motivated and hydrated, but fill up your tea again and rewatch this bad boy and take more notes, because man, Joy, so many gems.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Yeah, I think the number one thing that I want everyone to take away from this is, up until this point, if you felt like focus was just unattainable or just too abstract to even know where to begin, that is totally fine. Mm-hmm. And what we covered today gives you a great jumping off point. And I want for everyone to understand that you get to establish your relationship with focus. You get to choose how you interact with each type of focus, and you get to use focus as a tool to help you gain momentum. We're not making ourselves wrong for anything that we've done in the past, but we're making a choice to move forward in a way that feels a lot more empowering to us, especially if you're a multi-passionate, because I know focus can really feel like a 4-letter word at times. So thank you so much just for giving me the platform and the opportunity. And yes, it's really exciting that I'm going to have more time freedom soon. I'm really grateful for that. And, I'm grateful for Show It as well for helping me build my online platform and a website that I'm really proud of. It's opened up a lot of doors for me and brought a lot of opportunities my way. So definitely a mutually beneficial relationship. I really love you guys so
Oh
much.
man, that's so sweet. We didn't pay her to say that, guys. So,
Yeah.
so thank you, Joy. And yeah, guys, check out her website. It's amazing. It's so funny when we were chatting. Joy said that someone emailed her and was like, "You just made the most beautiful landing page I've ever seen." And so, man, check it out. I mean, you saw her slides. They were beautiful. They're creative. They're unique. So wonderful. So, again, Joy, we wish you absolutely all the very best. And community, we are so thankful for your time. We're thankful that you joined in on this webinar, and way to watch on the same day because her course thing is closing today. So you're going to want to jump in on that. But yeah, guys, tune back in. We will have more amazing webinars this year. And so we're thankful for you. We're thankful for just this time that we get to connect together, talk about our favorite snacks, and learn a lot and just kind of refill our cups. So everyone have a great day. Go out there, do your passive, active, intensive, and non-focus. Schedule that and avoid burnout.
Yes. Yes, yes, yes. Thank you so much.